This is Back Roads of Illinois server to farmers and ranchers in central Illinois and the Midwest. This is Back Roads of Illinois server to farmers and ranchers in central Illinois and the Midwest. We're glad you're here on today.
What?
I am Cesar Delgado.
Uh,
Last week in South Korea for trade accepted to China for beans and earth mineral. We were talking about it with Tyler Schau from agmarkets.net on a Monday. We were going to be in Kansas City for November 18th at the NAFB convention. I hope I will see you there in Kansas City and in the Farm Asset in Bloomington on December 6th at the Agri Center. You've been listening to Back Roads of Illinois. Last week in South Korea for trade accepted to China for beans and earth mineral. We were talking about it with Tyler Schau from agmarkets.net on a Monday. Hey Tyler, how are you? How feel about the deal with China?
Doing good. It's been a stretch of pretty good weather up here, so we're able to get some outdoor projects done before snow flies and ground freezes, so that's been positive. As far as the deal on China,
and
it was a good, it's a step in the right direction. Obviously, no matter your politics, no matter what you feel, you can shoot holes in the deal. You can praise it as a great deal. But at the end of the day, actions speak louder than words. And since the deal was announced, January soybeans closed last Monday at, let me look here, 1060. And today we closed at 1034. So we've had a 74-cent rally since the announcement of that trade deal struck between Xi Jinping and Donald Trump. And I mean, at the end of the day, like I said, actions speak louder than words. You can dislike the deal, you can dislike the politics, but evidently the market absorbed it and liked it. And oh, by the way, it's the best opportunities you've had to make soybean sales in well over a calendar year. So I would say the market has viewed it as friendly. There's a lot to be sorted out. There's a lot of nitpicking and a lot of detail that we need to find out. But for the most part, I think it's a good deal, and evidently the market thinks so as well.
Can you give us a dance, Tyler, or chicken dance with the deal?
I don't think I'm going to be doing any dancing. But I am encouraging my producers to do something. And so that could be selling some cash beans. We've had a lot of cash orders hit this last week. I mean, there's a whole other piece to it. I mentioned the futures market have rallied 70 cents. But since those producers put those beans in their bin post-harvest, the basis has also rallied in some instances 40 to 50 cents. So farmers that were able to store beans have been able to capture an extra $1.10 to $1.20 on those beans. But the only way you capture it is to do something. And that means you got to either sell them. You had to sell them and re-own them with calls, or you had to buy puts. But you got to do something. So if you're still sitting on beans in storage and you haven't sold them, take a look at the different strategies that allow you to utilize the rally and get something done here.
How is the corn markets, Tyler?
Corn hasn't reacted quite as friendly. One of the things about soybeans is there were specifics that were released on the amount of soybeans that were going to be purchased by China. One of the big differences between the first trade deal with China back in, I think that came out early 2020, was it was a dollar amount that China pledged to buy in U.S. agricultural products. This time it's not a dollar amount, it's a volume amount. So I do think that's a positive for the market. And then the bean market has taken that well because their actual numbers we can see, and we can debate about whether it's good. China, the end result is they're going to supposedly buy 12 million metric ton in the next few months before by January 2026. But then they are going to buy 25 million metric ton each year for the next 3 years, which some people will cast stones at that, say it's not that big of a deal. On average, over the last 5 years, we've sold them 27 million metric ton. I'm not here to say it's a good deal, a bad deal, one way or the other. What I will say is, we now have some numbers to work into balance sheets and some planning, and we can look to see where our ending stocks will be if China does come in and buy, and that's a positive thing for this market. So I think that's helped out corn or soybeans. Corn, we've got nothing. We don't know. I was just listening to a interview with Secretary Rollins on another program, and she said some of those details have been yet to be released. So hopefully we get a little information. Corn has been reluctant to follow beans, and that time that beans have gone up 70 cents, we're just a dime higher from where we were on the date of the release of those details. So haven't seen much. The other issue we've got on corn is, we missed the October WASDE report, and so we don't really know what the USDA is thinking on yield. We did find out today that there was supposed to be a WASDE report next Monday. We won't be getting it Monday, but we will be getting it next Friday. So there will be a WASDE report to look at. I doubt we'll get the USDA enumerators, so the people out in the field doing weight and ear counts and all that kind of stuff. But supposedly they are going to make some calls and get some customer survey data or farmer survey data in there, and we'll get to see if they've adjusted that yield lower. Reports we're getting, especially out of Iowa, tell us that maybe that last WASDE report we got in September was overshooting potential yield as some of these harvest numbers come in from Iowa, Illinois, and your major contributors.
I hope that we will get it for next week.
Yep.
Okay, Tyler, can you explain to our audience about the deal with China from last week?
Well, the deal was there was a lot of pieces to it. On the ag side, the Chinese agreed apparently to buy 12 million metric ton of soybeans between now and January. Sounds like the end of January, and then 25 million metric ton each year for the following 3 years. The other reason I would say that this one is a little different from the first trade deal with China, I already mentioned it's volume specific on beans, not necessarily dollar specific. The other thing that I think is important to note is it's coming after, we're just ending year one of the Trump administration. The first China trade deal that got approved in January 2020, I believe. And Trump got evicted, basically, voted out, and a new administration came in a year later. And that new administration, I'm not casting stones. I'm not trying to make this a political thing. It's just, it wasn't of importance to them. They did not enforce it. And so, a lot of people want to point and say, well, China's just not going to follow through. My guess is this administration is going to work a little harder to make sure China does follow through, since they will still be in office holding those positions. So I think it should have more teeth and it should be more promising. And so, again, that's why I think the market's taking notice and we're seeing the rally that we've seen.
Do you have some fear that we can lose it again for the future until we get new administration?
I think for the time being, for at least the next 3 years, this administration will expect that the Chinese follow through on their commitments. I don't know what enforcement modes they have, other than I do believe, the tariffs that they put on Chinese goods coming into the U.S. obviously were hampering Chinese economic activity. And so I think the Chinese want that removed. They want access to our markets. The U.S. has a lot of buying power, and big companies know that, big countries know that, so they want access to it. So I do think that played a role. Right now, no, I don't have the fear that a lot of people do. Maybe I should, but like I said, I'm not sitting here telling my customers do nothing and go buy bigger tractors and more land. What I'm telling them is, hey, we've gotten the best opportunities we've had in over 15 months. We need to be taking advantage. And I'll just reiterate, you got to do something. Just because prices are good doesn't mean anything if you don't act, if you don't do something to protect these values.
What is your position on the soybean acreage in the new year on the planting intention?
Well, we're a long ways from that, and I think a lot of things will change. I would have to guess with the rally in beans, there was already mumbling of farmers that they were going to increase their bean acres for next year at the expense of corn acres. Maybe not lock, stock, and barrel, maybe not everybody, but had quite a few people talking about it anyhow. And the main reason is just takes less dollars to plant an acre of beans than it does to plant an acre of corn. So as the bean prices continue to rally, you got November 26 beans at 11.13. So above that $11 mark. And like I said, we never had an opportunity until the last week to sell above $11 beans in 2025 on November 2025 beans. So at least in the calendar year of 2025. Last time you had that opportunity, you would have had to price them last year. One day during harvest in September. Other than that, you'd had to do it in the springtime. So the fact that we've got an opportunity to sell $11 futures on November 26 beans, I think will draw in some. But you do got to look, December 26 corn's at 467. That's a full 33 cents higher than where December 25 corn is right now. That's about where the insurance price was last year. Everyone thought we'd get back to it. We never did. So it'll be interesting to see what corn does over the next few months. But I've got a feeling right now I lean to increase in bean acres and a drawback in corn acres as we sit today.
You bring the soy sauce. Let's celebrate. How concerned about the cattle markets with these prices on the fundamentals?
Well, I'm not super concerned. I mean, from a fundamental perspective, nothing's really changed. Calf numbers are still tight. Feeder cattle numbers are still tight. Technically we did a lot of damage to the charts there over the last 2 weeks, and I would never say that it wasn't a big deal. It was a massive drop. You take November feeders, put in a high around 382 to a low last Monday, I believe, or excuse me, Tuesday of 327. So on the November board, high to low, you're looking at what a $55 drop in a matter of really a week and a half. So a huge drop of a magnitude we've never seen before. Now, still, even at that low of 327, what I've reminded producers that were pretty panicky all last week is, as of July 23rd, we'd never seen prices that high before. And at that price level on July 23rd, we settled at 328. Excuse me, 328 that day. It wasn't all that long ago. We were trading half that value. I mean, half of the 328 is 165, $164 feeder cattle. I can remember back to when I was teaching at Bismarck State College where that was a very valuable feeder calf. So, you got to keep things in perspective. I realize costs have increased for the cattlemen too and ranchers, but we're still at very, very high price levels. So I'm not super concerned. I will argue the market's still giving us opportunities to get some really good hedges in, especially for the cow-calf producer. The only people I'm really concerned about is anybody that bought cattle there over the last 3 weeks that did not do some type of risk management.
How is the feeder cattle for this afternoon on the technical buying?
We were up $3 in November. We were up $6 in some of your deferred contracts. There's not been the feeder cattle have struggled to find direction for the last few days. The good news is the bottom seems to have formed, but the market it's jittery, and that you tend to see that happen whenever you see those big massive price moves, where the market gets nervous and it's ready to bail on its positions at any point. So, we were up 5 or 6 today, but Friday we were down a couple bucks and you're nearby, and we were down $3 or $4 in some of your back months. So I wouldn't say I can really draw much from the technicals from today, other than any day you're green is a better day than red.
What is your final thoughts on the planting intention on the beans?
Well, my final thoughts, there's a long time between now and March 31st or March 1st when farmers submit their planting intention surveys. So there's a lot of time for things to change. I'm not going to get too caught up in where people are at right now. We're going to continue to scale in some sales on some new crop and kind of be honing that in and if I'm a producer, I'm not making massive changes right now, but I'm still going to go ahead and put some targets in to get some new crops sold. Again, we're above $11.13. You definitely didn't have this opportunity last year, and you planted beans, so you might want to be looking at it again, especially if you're growing some more for next year.
Thanks, Tyler. I enjoyed our conversation for today.
Me too. Always good to visit with you, Caesar.
Tyler Schau from agmarkets.net.